I'm going to try to go through and tell you everything that I know about the Allworx phone system, at least most of it. There is a lot out there to know, and there's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot that we have never touched. One of the things I like about it is that there are so many features in what's a relatively inexpensive system compared to other things that we shopped. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Now, I cannot actually uh, log into the system and show it to you. I tried to play around with that a little bit, but the issue is that I do not have a test environment. I can't make changes. It was very limiting. So instead, I'm going to give you kind of a virtual walkthrough here with some images. Starting off with when you first log in, this is what you're going to see. Now let's just go through and try to set up a new employee in the system. And there's going to be three pieces we're going to need to look at to do that. There is the user, and then the user has an extension, and then the extension typically goes to a phone. Actually, it does not need to. You could have an extension out there that has to be dialed in to check messages, and it doesn't ring a phone anywhere, but typically this is the way that it would work. Okay, so let's start off by taking a look at users. So we can go in under business and users and set up a new user by clicking on add user here. When we do that, we end up on a screen that looks like this. There's a lot of things that we could look at, a lot of conversations we could have, but let's actually keep it very basic here. You are going to, of course, set up a login. One thing that I might suggest, and this just depending on what your other needs are in the company, you might set up a generic login name. It might actually be easier that way if that user sadly leaves the company, somebody else comes in. You can kind of recycle the user. I've actually done that and just left the name the same even though it was an individual's name. But we're going to put some basic information here. We can select an extension from here if we need to. We can look at extensions here in a moment as well. A lot of these settings are fine just like they are. You don't have to go through and micromanage every one of them. You do have some that you may want to look at. For instance, here we have the maximum number of voicemails, and that may be something depending on the person's job. You may have to tweak that a little bit. Some people may need more, some people may need less. I also do want to point out that we do not use email forwarding. We've actually got the POP3 turned off. We don't have any email forwarding set up. That is a feature we tried out once, and I'm sure it works great for some people. Essentially, you'd be able to just automatically forward all of your voicemails to email as an audio recording. You could then save it, do whatever you need to do with it. But really, the rest of these settings are probably fine. When you get to the bottom, you'd go ahead and click Update to create that new user. Jumping on to take a look at extensions, we can see here the various extensions we have set up in the system, and that is under Phone System and Extensions. Now, an extension doesn't have to be a person. It can also be a group, as we can see down here. For each one, we can set up a call route to send that call to wherever we need it to go. All right, moving on to adding an extension, which we'd do right up here. That would look like this. An extension is going to have various call routes. Now, in our office, we really have not played with all the different presences that are available. Typically don't play with those at all. Definitely an individual could. All of them I think are right now set to go directly to voicemail, with the exception of in office, where initially the extension is going to try to ring the individual, and then if the individual is not available, it's going to go on to their voicemail. You can change the number of rings before that happens. You can also change what it sounds like when that call comes in. If we do go in to modify the call route, we can see here we've got more options that we can review. We can have multiple connection attempts, we can have multiple destinations, and we can tell the system what to do finally if nothing else happens, if nobody has picked up, and we can ultimately, for instance, have that transfer to a voicemail, typically what we would do, or you could have it hang up. That wouldn't be very customer friendly. Moving on to handsets, which is going to be under phone system and handsets. So this is where it all kind of comes together. We are going to assign our employee a handset as that their extension rings to that handset when there's a call for them. You'll see over here that there is an option to replace. Now, replace could simply be that a phone has gone bad and we've replaced the phone. When we set up a new phone in the system, clearly it's not going to have a person's name next to it because it doesn't know who it belongs to yet. You will have an option to assign it. You can also do that from the phone itself if you've already set up the user. When we go to set up a new handset, it would look something like this. We can see that we have assigned this handset to an individual. We can tweak the caller ID name if we need to. We can actually change a few other settings. We're going to scroll down, see if there's anything else of interest, but probably not a whole lot on the screen. Now, we do have some other settings though, and we can look at the configuration. Actually, jumping back a few screens, I think we'll actually see that here, that we have the we've actually got two configurations. We have the group, and we can also view the configuration for the individual phone. Scrolling down through here, you do have the option of grabbing a template and simply copying and pasting basically from what you've saved before to set up a new phone. Depending on the model number, it may be a different template. I have had some difficulty though, just to let you know. So sometimes I've entered this information manually. That's all you're really doing, is you're selecting this template in order to input this information, or you can just simply just go through and look at another phone and just duplicate it. This essentially says that the top 4 buttons go to a phone number. The call appearance, to be honest, I don't play with a whole lot, but this indicates how the other buttons are being used essentially. We should also take a look at the preference group configuration. There's a lot of stuff to look at here. I don't think there's anything we're looking at individually, but there's a lot of settings. Some of them, as you can see by this little tip off to the side, can be tweaked by the individual user. Other ones are assigned. And once you get the handset set up, the user is ready to go. You may need to reboot the phone, and all of those settings should take effect. For more information, you can go to allworx.com, and please join me for part 2 of this tutorial.